Hello, welcome to the digital sideboard here on the SCG Tour online. I'm Nick Miller alongside our Season 2 champion, David Inglis. Congratulations. We've only had a handful of events on the SCG Tour online, and you have quickly surmounted yourself king with 2 wins, including the championship qualifier a couple of weeks ago in Historic, and now in new Broken Omnath Standard. You reign supreme once again. How's it feel?
It feels great. It's like, I don't know, totally unreal. Just kind of this new format sprung on us. Got to figure it all out in a week. It turns out it's like very, very absurd and sort of one-sided, and you got to figure out all these really like niche plans in the first week, which is a lot. But yeah, the whirlwind is over. I won, so it feels great.
Already have 5 top 8s now spread over a handful of events with 2 wins. It might be 4. I have to check all the numbers. I think
it's 5.
The dominance has been unreal. I mean, we're not even mentioning the fact that you were in top 4 yesterday of the championship qualifier, so you had a chance to do it again. Talk about your build of the 4-color ramp deck. A lot of notable things here. If you look at the tournament yesterday and today, you did not have the main deck counterspell package that Julian had yesterday. You did not do the confounding conundrum things that a lot of players were doing yesterday and today, including your opponent in the finals, and no Crowan Ward. Talk about your build versus everything else here.
Yeah, you kind of covered the 3 main ways to do it. I think confounding conundrum is a bad card. It's easy to sideboard around. It's only good in certain stages of the game. It takes up a lot of slots in your deck when like raw threat count is really important. The games can go really long, and when you have these confounding conundrums in your deck, you end up with a lot of air. You don't have as many payoff cards, and if they just all get countered, you're just going to flood out and lose. So I don't think that build is good at all. I never considered playing it. Julian's build, I think, is a lot more interesting. He was actually in my testing team. We were talking last night. He was trying to get me to switch to it. I like seriously considered it, but when I was like looking at the deck and kind of staring at the cards on the screen, it just felt like I did not have the answers weren't good enough. I had these negates, but sometimes they'll have an Omnath or a Kenrith. You have all these mystical disputes, but sometimes they'll have an Escape to the Wilds or a Kenrith again, or it's, it gets awkward to hold up 3 mana as the game goes on. So the answers aren't that good, which has sort of been the defining feature of this format all along, right? That's why this deck is so dominant. There's no, disdainful stroke. There's no, even something like Tail's End would be really good. There's nothing like that. So why play those counter spells when it's kind of already been proven that they don't work, that they aren't good enough? So I ended up just playing kind of a very streamlined, kind of all the best cards, just like enough interaction that my opponents had to respect it, but not really like leaning into that game plan, and just kind of kept it simple, kept the deck just sort of leaned into its strengths and being this sort of proactive, aggressive ramp deck. And you have to have the answers for it, the right answers and at the right spots in the game. And if you don't, you're just gonna get buried. So that was the plan I was going for.
That's the thing we saw both yesterday and today is you can have the answers, but the way the deck plays out, they don't necessarily line up correctly. And then, like you said, you're holding a negate when they're playing creatures, or you're holding a dispute when they play the rhythm or the Escape to the Wilds. And once that happens, the game kind of unfolds from there, and you can't really catch back up. The other thing, I saw Confounding Conundrum to be good when a player had 2 copies of it. But even yesterday when Julian won, he played through 1 copy many times, and it really wasn't that big of a deterrent. In fact, sometimes you want to get the lands back to play them again for certain things. One thing that was constant over yesterday and today, watching you play the deck, not a lot of mulliganing. You're keeping a lot of hands that appeared on the surface to be either land light or not have your colors, but it just seemed like you knew the deck enough and you knew kind of the scenarios where the game was going to go long, or you just kind of had the right hands and they played out correctly? Is there any strategy to that? Am I off? Or
No, you're right. I kept some weird hands. And I think I would stand by at least most of those keeps. It's a ramp deck. It doesn't mulligan very well. There are only kind of a small subset of cards that are good in the first couple turns of the game. So it's kind of, you have to just sort of accept that you're going to be keeping these hands that are missing a piece and kind of counting on the numbers to work out. And then a lot of it, like you said, is matchup dependent too. These matchups is actually, I'm sure from the outside looking in, it just looks like a mess, but it is a really deep and intricate format. And a lot of even these like different builds of Omnath, like you have to play very differently in these different matchups. So I'm very much kind of playing to my opponent's deck list, really leaning into that open deck list and trying to understand my role in the matchup. And sometimes that role will look weird from an outside perspective, but that's just kind of what you have to do to play the matchup. So I think that was why I was so successful this weekend. I was really kind of distinguishing between the different builds of Omnath and playing accordingly.
Given that and the amount of play that there was in these mirrors, for the most part, and for the various builds you can make of the deck, how do you feel about tomorrow, or quote early next week, according to the Magic tweet, about action being taken on the format or it being monitored? Do you feel there's enough room to play around? I don't think really anyone can look at the results and say this is a healthy meta.
Yeah.
But how do you feel going forward tomorrow? And beyond that, what do you feel has to go or happen for the format to be healthy?
Yeah, I think to your first question, does something need to change? I think yes. I mean, you just look at what's going on here. This is like 60% of the field, this Omnath deck, and there are different decks, like I said, and it is kind of interesting, but that's not the whole picture. That's not what matters. We need to kind of appeal to a broader audience, and I don't think the broader audience is like, oh, this person's playing Confounding Conundrum in their Omnath deck, I need to totally adjust my mulligan strategy, right? That's like not the kind of things that appeal to most people. Like me as kind of a hyper competitive player trying to win at all costs, that stuff, I enjoy that kind of stuff, but I totally get that not everyone does, and Magic needs to be for everyone. So I think something does need to change. As far as what, I don't really try to spend a lot of time on that. I'm not a game designer. I just kind of play the games. So I like to just sort of take what's given to me and try to spend as much time figuring it out. Like I said, I was spending a lot of time this week kind of thinking about all the Omnath mirrors and all the different builds and what I wanted to be doing versus each of them. So I'd like to kind of direct my time towards that. I think it's a more sort of positive and healthy mindset for me. I'm sure the format's going to change at some point. They're going to decide on some bans, and I'll just kind of accept that and move on and on to the next format and figure that one out.
Right. You'll continue to do what you've been doing all season, and that's playing the best of your ability with the decks in the format, which you have showcased very well this season with 2 wins. The first, again, reiterating, first 2-time champion here on the SCG Tour online. So congratulations again for that. Any shout outs or anything for friends or coworkers?
Yeah, just shout out to my whole testing team. I played a bunch of mirrors with Simon Nielsen on Friday. He beat me. We played 5 of them. He beat me all 5 times. And so I was just like, oh my God, this weekend is going to be a disaster. But I learned a lot, and I was able to kind of apply that this weekend. Shout out to Simon, to Nick Price, to Christoph, everyone else on my team, Julian for his build. They all were really helpful. sharing a bunch of ideas, and we all did really well for it. So I'm happy for everyone.
All right. Well, you're $5,000 richer. You've got a qualification to the Zendikar Rising Championship. 2 wins this season. A great job. David Inglis, you're a champion. Congratulations. Hopefully tomorrow or later this week, we get to see what new standard format you get to play in and start breaking and solving from going on there. But for everyone watching, for the directors, commentators, everyone involved here in the tournament broadcast, and from the viewer perspective, thank you very much for another great season here on the SCG Tour. Everyone have a good night or good morning, wherever you are in the world.
Thank you.